Alright, we the Hebrew Israelites come out here week in, week out, prophesy the downfall of this kingdom to the grace and mercy of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua. Right? I'd like to start off by saying honor to you brothers out there. We're pushing this, honor to the, all praises to the Most High first and foremost. Honor to you brothers that be pushing this word out here in sincerity. Alright, I had the pleasantries of going out there to London last week. The brothers that be out there pushing this truth in London. Alright, all praises to the Most High for that. Alright, but as always, we're always speaking about the destruction of this space, and that's what we're going to be speaking on right up until this, this space be destroyed. Like the scripture said, the spirit of the prophets is subject unto the prophets. Alright, so the prophets that have been before us did the same thing that the prophets that are here today do. Right, prophesying the destruction of this place. Right, telling you people, not only just you Negroes, Hispanics, Native Americans, but all the people that are the inhabitants of the whole earth, that this kingdom is going to be destroyed. And the Lord said, whether these people here or forbid, right, we're going to push this way. So whether these people, whether you Negroes, Hispanics, Native Americans, all it is will disperse throughout the four corners of the earth, take heed to the word of the Most High coming out through his prophets. Right, it's irregardless of what the prophets of the Most High is going to do, of which prophecy or prophet, right, comes from the word. Basically, it just means to say before it happens. And who are the people that say before it happens? The people that be at the house of GMS, so to speak. Right, the people that dwell with the Most High, wherever the Lamb goes, that's where we go. Right, so if we get into cursing a certain, particular individual out, that's what we're gonna be doing that particular, at that point in time. But when we get into a certain topic, that's what we're gonna be getting into, because that's what the Spirit is leading us to. All right. Sorry? You inquiring? Did you believe in God? Huh? No. Okay. These all can be funny sometimes. Right, let's get into it. Right, this is Amos 9 and 8. Nice and easy, nice and simple. Where's Amos? Right, this is Amos, the 9th chapter, and the 8th verse. Right, it says, behold, the eyes of the Lord power, right, the eyes of the Most High, right, the angels, so to speak. Behold, the eyes of the Lord power are upon the sinful kingdom, right, and what's sinful? We know sin is the transgressions of the Lord in accordance to John. Right, so the eyes of the Most High are upon the sinful kingdom. Right, and what's the Most High thing to do to the sinful kingdom? It says, behold, the eyes of the Lord power are upon the sinful kingdom, and I will destroy it from off the face of the earth. Right, so the Most High is going to destroy this kingdom off of the face of the earth, right, because of all the iniquity that happens on the face of the earth. Right, because contrary to your beliefs, the Most High has set up a belief system, right, a regulatory system, if you like, right, and a means of conducting yourself, which is in accordance to the 613 laws, statutes, and commandments that he's put forth from the foundations of the earth, which were oral, right, in the times, in the times of Genesis, right, but became a rudimentary, or rather more, were put into force, right, in the time of Moses. Right, so the Most High put a regulatory system that you're supposed to conduct yourselves in accordance to, right, what to eat, right, how you're supposed to conduct yourself in terms of your families and who you sleep with and so on and so forth, right? And we know through John that that's what the scriptures knows as sinful, right? It says, behold, the eyes of the Lord power upon the sinful kingdom, and I will destroy it off of the face of earth. So the Most High is going to destroy it because of the iniquity that's being done in the midst thereof. Alright, and that's why it also says in Ezekiel, we go out here to the people that are sighing and crying. And people out here ain't sighing and crying, people are enjoying themselves. Partying, like the scripture says, folly is set in great dignity. Right, so going out, right, and enjoying yourself and being merry, whilst in Syria we're about to have all-out World War III, right? That's what this kingdom is all about. That's what this society is all about, right? And the scripture says we're supposed to be hastening the day. We ain't supposed to be enjoying what's happening out here, right? It says, behold, the eyes of the Lord power upon the sinful kingdom, and I will destroy it from off the face of the earth. So the Most High is willing to destroy your society, Esau. Alright, you elite banking family. The Most High is going to destroy your precious America, England, and so on and so forth. Right? And the Most High is going to have it to where His men as well is going to help. You're going to be helping with the destruction of this kingdom. Alright, because contrary to common belief, right, the most special people, the highest commodity in this kingdom is the so-called Negro, right, the so-called Israelite, not just the so-called Negro, right, the Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans, all the Israel dispersed throughout the four corners of the earth. And those are the, like it says in Jeremiah, right, that's the battle, that's the battle axe of the Most High, right, with him. Right, I mean, say you Negroes, Hispanics, Native Americans. With him, was he gonna execute judgment, execute vengeance? Right? It says, "Behold, the eyes of the Lord power upon the sinful kingdom, and I'll destroy from off the face of the earth, saving utterly. I will not destroy the house of Jacob." Who's the house of Jacob today? Right? Like it says in the scriptures, the same people that were led into captivity by way of slave ships. Right? That's the house of Jacob. Right? The Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans of wherewith. We know that the kingdom of the Most High was split into two, whether you had you had a southern kingdom and a northern kingdom. Right? The Spanish-speaking tribes left the land of Israel in a before Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. And Judah, Benjamin, and Levi were led away captive. They fled into the interiors of Africa, right after they conquered Europe. Right, and they knew themselves as the Moors in those times. After that, they were sold into captivity by way of cargo slave ship, which is what it's prophesied of in Deuteronomy the 28th chapter and the 68th verse. All right, but more so than that, it's also prophesied that the so-called Israelites, the so-called Negroes, Hispanics, Native Americans, would be dispersed throughout the four corners of the earth. Right, they were going to come in looking different, looking different shades and forms, man. They're going to look like they was coming from Amalek, Ammon. Right? It was going to come looking like Ishmael, right? Moab, and so on and so forth, right? It says, "Saving utterly, I will not destroy the house of Jacob, saith the Lord. For lo, I will sift, and I will sift the house of Israel from among all nations." The Lord was going to sift the house of Israel, you Negroes, Hispanics, Native Americans, from among all nations. Right? Now, that's all nations upon the face of the earth. So this ain't no pseudo Negro thing. Right, this is a spiritual thing, right? Namely, this is about a gene, a predominant gene, like it says in Deuteronomy the 7th and the 6th chapter. Right, Israel was going to be above all people that are upon the face of the earth. This is about a predominant gene that's going to take over the world. And let's jump to Daniel the 2nd chapter and the 44th verse. Right, that was at some point in the near future that's going to inherit the earth. All right. This is Daniel 2 and 44, and it says, "In the days of these kings, in the days of the elite banking families, right, the Rothschilds, the DuPonts, and so on and so forth, right, in the days of these kings shall the Most High of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed," right, and it says, "And the kingdom shall not be left to other people." This kingdom is not going to be left to Ammon, Ishmael, and so on and so forth, like these different kingdoms that were former time had been set up for. Right, this kingdom was not going to be given to other people. This was going to be for you Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans. Right, for you to enjoy. Right, it says, right, "which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these other kingdoms." Right, and it shall stand forever. So the first thing it says there, it says it's going to destroy all these other different kingdoms. Right, and it's going to stand forever. Right. Kind of even my love. Alright, it says, right, it's back in Amos the 9th chapter, and it says, "For lo, I will command, I will sift the house of Israel from among all nations like corn is sifted in the sea." Right, so all of Israel is going to be dispersed throughout the four corners of the earth, which goes to prove to you the people that constitute the land of Israel right now ain't the real Israelites. Right, because we see that in the scriptures, right, Israel has been dispersed from, throughout the four corners of the earth. Right, so if Israel's been dispersed throughout the four corners of the earth, right, and the prophecy says that, right, then those Jews right there that they call themselves the Jews are not the real Jews, and that's what he says in Revelations, the 3rd chapter. You jump to it. Right, this is Revelations, the 3rd chapter. Like this is Revelations the 3rd. We'll go for 2 and 9. Right, this is Revelations 2 and 9. It says, I know thy works, and I know thy tribulation. I know thy works and tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich. Right, and I was talking about certain church of or you Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans, which are which are here out here now, pushing this truth throughout the 4 corners of the earth. Right, it says, and I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews and are not. Right, so the scripture tells us there's going to be a group of people that was going to come on the earth right now. They're going to say they're the real Jews, but they are not. Right, and it says, but are of the synagogue of Satan. Right, and we know that there's the synagogue of Satan because all the wickedness that happens in this world, right, is because of because of those Khazarian imposters. Right. It says, and then here's a point to back it up, right? Let's jump to 3 and 9 because you kind of, right? This is Revelation 3 and 9. It says, behold, I will make the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews and are not, but do lie. Behold, I will make them come and worship thy feet, and to know that I have loved thee. Right? So that's what the Most High is going to do as concerning those imposters, right? And let's jump to a supporting point, a precept, so to speak. This is going to be in Maccabees, right? To show you that the Most High had it to where we iconoclasm, which is the rewriting, right? The covering of the judges, right? To paint over the judges. Right, who were the judges? The Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans, the Israelites. Right, that was all prophesied in the scriptures. Right, this is 1 Maccabees 3 and 48, and it says, and laid open the book of the law, wherein the heathen, right, like it says in Revelation, the 3rd chapter, and the 9th verse, and the 2nd chapter, and the 9th verse, right? The synagogue of Satan, them that say they are Jews but are not, but do lie. Right, it says, and laid open the book of the law, wherein the heathen sought to paint their own the likeness of their image, right? The likeness of their own image, right? So the heathen they opened the book of the Lord, but opened the book of the Most High, right? And sought to paint their own likeness, right? And we see that with Cesare Borgia, right? You see that with all the judges, right? And that's why you have it to where the whole inhabitants of the earth believes that the cause of imposters right now are the real Jews. All right, but the scripture clearly tells you that's going to be the synagogue of Satan. All right. Now this is back in Obadiah. It says, "For lo, I will command, I will sift the house of Israel, Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans, all right, from among all nations, like corn is sifted in the sieve, yet not shall the least grain fall upon the earth." Right. So all of Israel is going to make it. That's the beautiful thing about it. All right, but the ones that don't make it right now, right, they're going to make it as newborn babies on the other side. All right, it says, yet shall not the least grain fall upon the earth, right? And all sinners of my people shall die by the sword. See, that's the duality of the Most High. The Most High will tell you you're going to make it, but he will also tell you that you're going to be destroyed, right? Right? In Zechariah, the 13th chapter and the 8th verse, the Most High says that all Israel is going to go through the fire first and foremost. Right? That means to say the elect and the non-elect. Right? Like it says in Romans, the 9th chapter, it says those are the Israel of Israel, as in the elect, as pertaining to an elect within the elect. Right? All of the elect is going to make it, but the elect within the elect, right, is going to be above that. Right? Where if they're going to make it on this side, right, if they wake up and turn on to the Most High, they be sealed, right, by the name of the Most High, which goes to show you to know the name of the Most High, because there's no other name or the sentence or the phrase you can say underneath the heavens that will lead you into your salvation. All right. It says, all the sinners of my people shall die by the sword, which say, the evil shall not overtake nor prevent us. Right. So, and it says, in that day will I raise up a tabernacle of David that is fallen, and close up the breaches thereof, and I will raise it up, and I'll raise up his ruins, and I'll build it in the day, as in the days of old. And that's talking about just same thing in as he was talking about in Daniel, the 2nd chapter and the 44th verse, where the Most High is going to set up us in our older states, right? He's going to set us up as we was in the former times, right? We're going to be great men again, right? That says that they may possess the remnant of Edom, right? Right? That's talking about the caveman Esau, right? And it says, and all the heathen which are called by my name, and saith the Lord that doeth this. Let's jump to Revelation, the 2nd chapter and the 44th. So we, you like the scripture says, you got to put precept upon precept, right? But then also the Most High said He doesn't change, right? The Most High said He's the same today as He is tomorrow, and so on and so forth, right? So whatever He says in the former times in the scripture there, right? Whatever it says in the Old Testament, right? It's going to say the same thing in the New Testament. Right, and we're seeing that here the scripture says the Most High is going to set up the Negroes, Hispanics, Native Americans, and all the Israel dispersed throughout the four corners of the earth. Right, like it says, I will command and I'll sift all the Israel from among, as corn is sifted, right? As corn is sifted in a sieve, right? Which pertains to the dispersal of all all Israel, right? With which you got the majorities here and there, but the point is there was going to be a dispersal, right? It says that they may possess the remnant of Edom and all the heathen that are called by my name, saith the Lord that do it. Right? Now let's go to prove to you that this is going to prove to you that the Most High is the same today as He is tomorrow, as He always going to be. Right? He's always going to be for you Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans. Right? Now this is Revelation 2:25. It says, but that which ye already have hold fast until I come. And what do we already have? We've got this knowledge, wisdom, and understanding that's pertaining to the Most High, the name of the Most High, who the Most High is going to come and say, or who the Most High is going to come and destroy, pursuing the prophecies, the law. Alright? It says, and then he that overcometh and keepeth my works unto the end, right, to him will I give power over the nations. Right, so the Most High said, whoever's going to keep His works until the end, whoever's going to be, prophesying the downfall of the kingdom, the downfall of the society, and prophesying the return of you Negroes, Hispanics, Native Americans, whoever keeps that work up until the day He comes, hasten the day, so to speak. Right? Right? He says, to him will I give power over the nations, which is the same thing He was talking about in Amos the 9th chapter. Right? Power over the heathens. Right? It says, and he shall rule them with a rod of iron, right? It says, as a vessel of the potter shall they be broken to shivers, as I have received of my Father. Right, which goes to show you the Most High is the same all the time, man. He's consistent. Right, he's a constant, so to speak. All right. Now this is back in Amos. It says, all right, that they may possess the remnant of Edom and all of the heathen, right, which are called by my name, saith the Most High that doeth this. Right. You right, sweetheart? Right. Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that the plowman shall overtake the reaper, and the treaders of the grape, and the treaders of the grapes him that soweth the seed. Right. And the mountains shall drop the sweet wine, and the hills shall melt. Right. And I will bring again the captivity of my people Israel, the Negroes, Hispanics, Native Americans, and all the Israel dispersed throughout the four corners of the earth. Right? It says, and they shall build the waste cities. And why the city is going to be wasted? Like it says in Revelations, the 2nd chapter, and the 9th verse, and the 3rd chapter, and the 9th verse, we've got an imposter in there defiling the land. Like it also says in, I believe it's Ezekiel, the 36th chapter or the 37th chapter, right? Before we go back into that land, right? That land's gonna have to be cleansed, right? And that's why it says in the scriptures right here, those waste cities is gonna be rebuilt. We're gonna rebuild that land, and that land's gonna be fertile again. All right, and that goes to show you, man, in such a little space of time, we read, from the 8th verse to the 14th verse of Amos. Right, we've touched all different kind of topics, reincarnation, right? The fact that there's iconoclasm in the Bible, in the scriptures, right? The dispersal of Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans, right? The uprisings of the Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans, right? That's why you're gonna go precept for one precept, so you can go to, you know, get the deeper understanding. But also, you're gonna learn from the elders, right? Because if it wasn't not only just the elders, more so the Most High, right, who opened our minds out, we opened up our pineal gland, so to speak, right, onto the spiritual understanding of this truth, right? But the point is, that's why you gotta you know, learn from the elders, right, and so on and so on, above them, right? It says, and I bring again the captivity of my people, Israel, that they may build the waste cities, inhabit them, right, that they may plant vineyards, right, and drink the wine there. And that's when we're going to enjoy ourselves, right? That's when we're going to, you know, get into our own estate, get into our own thing, do our own thing, plant vineyards and so on and so forth. Might drink wine, the yayan, so to speak, right? And it says, and they shall also make the gardens and eat the fruit, right? And that's what, you know, the future is looking like for you Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans. And let's jump to 2nd Ezra, the 15th chapter, to show you the immediate future, what's going to happen promptly. Right, because that's what's going to happen on a long time span. But what's going to happen on a short time span? What's the immediate effect of this war that's imminently going to happen between America and Syria? What's going to happen? And is that in the scriptures? Of course, it's in the scriptures, because all things is in the scriptures. Right. So this is 2nd Ezra, the 15th chapter. We'll start from the top verse. Right, it says, "Behold, speak thou in the ears of my people, right, the words of this prophecy which I'll put in thy mouth, saith the Most High." Right, so the Most High, you know, basically gave the order out to Ezra, but really it's an order to all, you know, all of the Negroes, you know, all of the people, right, all of Israel, right, that have this knowledge of the elect, right, that they be out here pushing this truth, like it says in, like it says in Proverbs, the 1st chapter, and the 21st verse, where with wisdom crieth out, no picture space, right, where with wisdom crieth out. Right, standeth, you know, standeth in the chief of the gates thereof. Right, meaning to say, wisdom cries in the, you know, midst of the streets. That's where the wisdom be, you know, is taught at. All right, and it says, which I will put in thy mouth, saith the Most High, and I'll cause them to be written in the paper, for they are faithful and true. So the words of these scriptures are faithful and true, and we're also seeing the scriptures. When the Most High says something, it's not void. Right, so there's certain prophecies that are in the Old Testament that haven't come to pass yet, namely the destruction of this kingdom and the setting up of you Negroes, Hispanics, Native Americans in your own society. Right, that hasn't come to pass yet. Right? It says, and cause them to be written in the paper, for they are faithful and true. And it says, fear not the imagination against thee, let not the incredulity of them that trouble thee, and that speak against thee. Right, and it says, for all the unfaithful shall die in the unfaithfulness. Now let's jump to 1 Corinthians 6 and 9. Right, this is 1 Corinthians, the 6th chapter and the 9th verse. It says, know ye not, right, that the unrighteous shall not inherit the kingdom of the Most High. Right, so the unrighteous amongst the Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans, they, you know, they're gonna inherit the earth. So who's this really talking about? This is talking about all the heathen, right? The wicked, so to speak. They ain't gonna inherit, right? More so than that, they're gonna be the scriptures is gonna be the tables is gonna be flipped, right? So the captives, or who's in captivity right now is the Negroes, Hispanics, Native Americans, and Israelites, right? Those are the people that are in captivity in this society, right? But that's gonna be flipped around, right? It says, know ye not that the unrighteous shall not inherit the kingdom of the Most High, but be not deceived, neither fornicators, right, nor idolaters, nor adulterers, right? So let me say, you ain't supposed to be sleeping with another man's woman, right? And it says, no fornicators, sorry, not effeminates, right? And effeminate means to have a lack of faith, right? It says, no effeminates, no abusers of themselves with mankind, right? Let's go back in 2nd Ezra, the 15th chapter. So this is the 4th verse. It says, right, for all the unfaithful, the effeminates, right, shall die in their unfaithfulness, right? Behold, saith the Most High, I'll bring plagues upon them, right? says, I bring plagues upon the world, right? The sword, famine, death, and destruction. So that's what the Most High is bringing right now, right? Hey, you know, in certain societies, you don't see the effects of the different famines that have happened in different parts of the world, right? Because that finance is coming in, but there's gonna come a point where there's gonna be all that famine throughout the four corners of the earth, man, right? Namely via way of those ICBMs. Right, because once you're in how you doing?
What are you doing?
I'm reading the Bible. That's what I'm doing.
Because I've seen you here before.
Yeah.
With the camera. Is that a camera?
That's the camera. Yeah.
So you read into the camera.
Reading, you know, Scripture says you're supposed to be reading the Bible. Your church is supposed to be, you know, when you're out in the streets preaching. Yeah. Right. So the camera is there for as a means of using another medium to push the truth, so to speak. Right, but the dominant means of reading the Bible or teaching or preaching, in other words, is supposed to be done on the streets. Right, so that's just another medium. No, that's not really transmitting. It's gonna be online. It's gonna be put on YouTube.
All right.
Right, but the predominant thing is being out here. So that's just a secondary objective, so to speak. That makes sense?
Yeah, of course it does. Yeah. No, I just wonder what you did, because I said I've noticed you here before.
Right. You're just reading the Bible, telling them my people what they're supposed to expect in the imminent future, namely what's going to happen with Syria and America, what's going to be the implications of Syria and America, right? That's what's all prophesied in the scriptures.
Right. Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
I'll try to.
Do you enjoy it?
There's nothing better than teaching. Nothing better than teaching.
Great.
Yeah. Right. It says, this is back in 2nd Ezra, the 15th chapter and the 5th verse, and it says, behold, saith the Lord, I'll bring plagues upon the world. Right, and that's what I was talking about right now. Namely, the plagues is going to come as a direct result, right, of the altercation that's going to result in America going into Iran or Syria. Right, like the Russians said, it's going to fire up, man. It's gonna be like when you throw down snow off a hill, right, and the ball just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Just imagine that's gonna be fire, and namely that nuclear fire, right? And that's all prophesied in the scriptures, man. Right? And it says, behold, saith the Lord, right? I'll bring plagues upon the world. The sword, which that sword, right? That sword is those ICBMs, man. That's that sword. That's the modern day sword, right? So, because a sword is just an instrument of judgment, a killing instrument, right? A means of executing judgment. And the modern means of executing judgment by way of the Most High is those ICBMs, man. Right? It says, the sword, famine, death, and destruction for wickedness, right? Wickedness has exceedingly polluted the earth, the whole earth, right? And their hateful works are fulfilled. And their hateful works are fulfilled. And what are some of those hateful works? Right? The way that you Negroes, Hispanics, Native Americans be living in the conditions that you be living in. Right? And also the fact that the scripture says that this man's, this man is perpetually wicked. Right? Namely, Esau is perpetually wicked. Right? More so than that, his wickedness be sweet in his mouth, like it says in the Psalms. Right? It says, right, let's jump to 1st Maccabees, because it says there, right here, for wickedness has exceedingly polluted the whole earth, and their faithful and their hurtful works are fulfilled. And you see some of those hateful works, right? All kind of Negroes, Hispanics, Native Americans that have been killed in the last 300 years, man. Millions and millions of them, right? And that's some of their hateful works. But most of than that, the barium oxide that's in the air that you're breathing in, the fluoride that's calcifying your pineal gland, so you don't understand these scriptures. Right? But most of than that, the Most High said in the scriptures, right? He was gonna blind certain cats. So, hey, you can put all the fluoride that you want in the water, but the Most High is gonna have his elect. They're gonna wake up to this truth, right? Regardless of how much fluoride you put in the water, how much barium oxide you put in the air, the Most High's elect is still gonna be out. Right? Like it says in the scriptures, no matter what weapon is formed against the Negroes, Hispanics, Native Americans, and all the Israel throughout the four corners of the earth that be of the elect, it shall not prosper. Right? Right, this is Maccabees or one of it, right?
And then I enrolled on Wednesday.
Right, this is Maccabees 1 and 1, because the scripture says in the second Ezra, right, that wickedness exceedingly polluted the earth. Now, they wasn't knowing the earth wasn't always as wicked as it is now, but then, you know, we see that there's a process of reincarnation. Right, where if the first time the Most High flooded the earth, right, and the second time the Most High is going to flood the earth, but by way of fire. Right, so the first time we flooded it by water, right, and we see in the scriptures, namely 2 Peter, the 3rd chapter, right, the Most High is going to flood the earth again, but by a way of fire this time, right? Now this is First Maccabees, the 1st chapter and the 7th verse. It says, "So Alexander, Alexander the so-called great, reigned 12 years, and then he died, right? And his servants ruled everyone in his place, right? And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves, and so did their sons after them many years," right? That just goes to show you, you know, within the scriptures, there's going to be historical accounts, right? Sometimes it's not always as plainly seen as it is in this particular verse, but it says here Alexander reigned 12 years, right? After that, after he's died, right? Namely by way of syphilis, right? After he died, right? His servants after him, basically started a dynasty, so to speak, right? It says, after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves, right? And so did their sons many years, and so did their sons after them many years, right? And evils were multiplied in the earth, right? So we see that after this dynasty, this particular group of people, right? Esau, namely, right? Edom, right? This, you know, the forefathers of the so-called elite banking families. After this group of people came into power, right? Wickedness exceedingly. How you doing, sir? You right? Wickedness exceedingly polluted the earth, right? This is back. Let's jump to Proverbs, the 29th chapter, and the 16th verse.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that is. St. Mary's Catholic.
The little Catholic one. Yeah.
This is Proverbs 29 and 16. It says, "When the wicked are multiplied, transgressions increase, right? But the righteous shall see their fall." Right? Let me read that again. It says, "When the wicked are multiplied, right? Namely, when the wicked came into rulership, in by way of Alexander the so-called great, when that group of people came into power, right? We see that wickedness, increased within the earth. That's because they're the border of the wicked. The scripture says they're of the wicked. All right. It says, when the wicked are multiplied, transgression increaseth, but the righteous shall see their fall." So the righteous, which is the elect, the so-called Negroes, Hispanics, Native Americans, they're gonna see the fall of Esau. They're gonna see the fall of Edom. Right, the so-called cave monkey. Right, we're gonna see your fall. All right. That's back in 2nd Ezra, right? We're at the sixth verse. 2nd Ezra, the 15th chapter, and the 6th verse, and says, "For wickedness hath exceedingly polluted the whole earth, right? And their hateful works are fulfilled, right? Therefore saith the Lord, I will hold my tongue no more as touching their wickedness." The Most High ain't gonna, in other words, the Most High is not gonna hold back, right, as touching the wickedness of Esau, Edom, the so-called elite banking families, right, that be devising all of these different different agendas to basically eradicate, so-called Negroes, Hispanics, Native Americans off the face of the earth. Right, the Most High is not gonna, he's not gonna hold back now. right? More so than that, the Most High said the Most High is gonna have it to where you know oh man, let's get it in let's get it in Isaiah the 63rd, the 63rd chapter, right? This is Isaiah 63:1, right? It says, "Who is this that cometh from Edom, right, with dyed garments from Bozrah? This is that is glorious in apparel, traveling in the greatness of the sun." So Isaiah seen the vision here. He's saying, "Who is this that traveling? This traveling with this great swagger, right? Right, walking with dyed garments from Bozrah, from Edom, all right." It says, "And traveling in the greatness of its strength, right? And that it says, I that speak in righteousness, mighty to save." Right? And who is that? That's going to be the Lord. So it's just directly talking about the Lord, right? Coming from Edom, coming from Bozrah, right? Having having that glorious apparel, and that glorious apparel is tainted with that blood, man, from stumping them Edomites as grapes, man. And we're going to see that in the scriptures. It says, right? I that speak in righteousness, mighty to save. Wherefore, and it says, this is Isaiah speaking. It says, "Wherefore art thou red in thine apparel, and thy garments like him that treadeth the winefat." Right? It says, "I have trodden the winepress alone." Right? That's the Lord speaking. He said he's trodden the winepress alone. He got to them, the Edomites. Right? And he stood upon them by himself. Right? He says, "And of the people that was none with me, right, for I will tread them in the anger of mine fury." Which goes to show you the Lord has, the Lord has a personality. The Lord gets angry. Right? And like it says right here in 2nd Ezra, the 8th chapter, it says, "I will hold my tongue no more," it's touching their wickedness. Right? Which goes to show you that the Most High's anger is perpetuating against you, you Edomites. Right? You so-called elite banking companies, right? You so-called Jews in the land of Israel right now. The Most High's anger is, increasing against you, day in, day out. Right, but we also know that the scripture says 1 day is as 1,000 years is the day with the Most High. So what might seem like a long time, right, on the earthly basis, is just a short time on the Most High's basis. All right, and this is Second Ezra. This is Isaiah the 63rd chapter, and the 3rd verse. And it says, "And of the people that was none with me, I will tread them in mine anger, and trample them in my fury, and their blood shall be sprinkled upon my garments, and I'll stain all my raiment." Right, so that's what the Most High is saying. That's what the Most High. That's the perpetual anger of the Most High is saying. He said that he's saying their blood shall be sprinkled upon my garments, and I will stain my raiment. Right, I'll stain all of my raiment for the day of vengeance. Right, the day of vengeance against as concerning the Negroes, Hispanics, Native Americans, what Esau's done to Negroes, Hispanics, Native Americans over the years, right, and all of Israel over the years, right, messing up the whole earth and so on and so forth, right. That's what the Most High is saying here. He's the day of vengeance is in his heart. It says, "For the day of vengeance is in my heart, and the year of my redeemer is come." So the year of the redemption for you Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans nearly come, man. Right, so we got nothing to worry about, so to speak. We got nothing. We got much to hope for, man. Not much to lose, right? Because we've hit, you Negroes, Hispanics, Native Americans hit rock bottom, so to speak. Right, and the Most High is finna to elevate you back and put you in your own estate, right? Like it says in Amos, the chapter like we read in Amos, right? But most of the night, the Most High is finna to do a heavy destruction out here first before he sets you Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans up, because balance must be restored. Right, fear of the Most High must be restored. Right, you cannot go about going wickedness, right, expecting the Most High not to be angry about it. That's why it says, "For the day of vengeance is in my heart, and the year of my redeemer is come." Right, it says, and I looked, and there was none to help me, and I wondered, there was none to uphold. Right, therefore my own arm brought salvation unto me, and my fury it upheld me, and I will tread down the people in my anger, and make them drunk in my fury. Right? He's gonna make them drunk. He's gonna make you Edomites drunk in his fury, man. Right? That's how the Lord's gonna come back. He's gonna come back with that much anger. He's gonna make you drunk in his fury, man. Right? It says, right? Therefore my and I will tread down the people in mine anger, right? And I'll make them drunk in my fury, and I'll bring down their strength to the earth. He's gonna bring down your strength to the earth. Like that's why it says in Obadiah, when your strength when the pinnacle of your technology, your architecture, and so on and so forth, when you reach the pinnacle of that, the Most High is going to throw you down. That's why the scripture also says, "Pride goeth forward before destruction." Because what's a sign of your pride? Right, it's going to be your greatest work, your masterpiece, so to speak. Right, the highest building that you can build. Right, the highest flying machine that you can build. Right, and when you reach that pinnacle, that's when the Most High is going to take you down, Esau. Right. This is back in 2nd Ezra. The 8th chapter, and it says, "I will hold my tongue no more as touching their wickedness, right, which they profanely commit." And who is more profane than Esau, right, than Edom, right? And profane just means out of the temple. Once out of the temple, conducting yourself in a manner that is contrary to the Lord's statutes, commandments of the Most High. All right, that's profane. That's out of the temple. All right. It says, "Which they profanely commit. Neither will I suffer them in those things in which they wickedly exercise themselves. Behold, the innocent and righteous blood crieth unto me, and the souls of the just continually complain." So the souls of the just, the ones that have died put in this truth, they continually complain to the Most High concerning why this kingdom should be destroyed. Right, so if the souls of the just is continually complaining, then us here being in the flesh, we're supposed to be continually complaining, prophesying the downfall of this kingdom, prophesying the downfall of this society, right, and prophesying the up, what we got to hope for, what we hope for, right? Getting you Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans set up in your own estate, right, so that we can live in glorious apparel. Right, not setting up, businesses and so on and so forth in this kingdom. Right, doing what we gotta do to get by, and we gotta do that. And the scripture says we gotta be as smart as a serpent and as harmless as a dove. So when we're in the society, we're supposed to conduct ourselves, right, in the highest estate. Right, but when we get in, basically, supposed to be you're supposed to be as a gentleman, so to speak. But then that's